Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Umar and this is State of the Nation. Be part of the show. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV and use the hashtag State of the Nation to be part of the show. We're following up on the biggest stories, one of which is the government's delegation sent to the fact-finding mission in Libya, where over 5,000 Nigerians are identified to be held in slave camps. Well, over 500 have returned in the last batch, in an effort by the government to free its citizens from the clutches of slavery and inhuman treatments in Libya. Julie Okadonli is the Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP. She joins me from our Abuja studios. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the show at this time. You were part of that delegation sent on a fact-finding mission to Libya. What did you find? Well,
the federal government constituted a committee, a fact-finding committee to Libya, which comprised of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was the head of the team, and a host of other relevant agencies, including myself. The mission was to go to Libya to find out how many detention camps we had Nigerians being held in, and we're able to confirm that, or we were told rather, that we had Nigerians in about 14 detention camps. We were able to inspect 4 of those camps and to also have talks with the Minister of Justice and Interior and also with the President of Libya.
What assurances did you get from the Libyan government, if any, to help in this repatriation effort?
Well, they promised to give their full cooperation to ensure that all the Nigerians in the various detention camps who were desirous of coming back will be assisted to come back. And we hope and pray that they will fulfill their promise.
Well, now, this is the situation. Libya runs a legitimate and an illegitimate government by Field Marshal Iftikhar, we understand. Are you able to get to that part of Libya where Nigerians are thought to be held and seems to be inaccessible under the rulership of the Field Marshal?
Well, I want to believe that after this first phase of evacuation exercise is over, we can start talking about areas that are not accessible. Of course, with negotiations, I mean, there's nothing that is impossible. When that time comes, I'm sure we'll use negotiators to get everyone out, because Mr. President has made it clear that none will be left behind and every single person will come back. As a matter of fact, the technical team is still on ground in Libya, and they are also getting as much information as they can, not just about Nigerians in the detention centers, but as well as Nigerians also just living in Libya who are desirous of coming back home.
Do you think, for instance, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, having had a military background himself, do you think he can interface with the strongman of Libya, the Field Marshal, Iftikhar, to try to see that there is some kind of understanding to reach more Nigerians, because we understand that there are over 400,000 of them there. So you have a lot of work to do.
Yes, I know. When we get to that bridge, we'll definitely cross it. Like I said earlier on, it is possible to get everyone out of Libya. And when we get to that phase, we'll work on that. It is possible.
So how much of a human face do you think is this problem being accorded by the international community?
Well, you know, right from inception, I think the international community has been, has been cooperative with Nigerians. You know, I mean, some of them have been really concerned. I've had a series of meetings with some ambassadors, with the EU, and so on, and they are really willing to help. You know, to make sure that this mission is accomplished.
Do you think there is enough pull factor, call it retaining factor, if you will, to discourage those who have returned from Libya and then having them embarking on this perilous journey again?
Absolutely. I mean, all those who returned have made it clear that never again will they embark on such treacherous journey. I mean, most of these people come from communities where they have little or no access to the internet. Most of them are also not schooled. And so these, you know, smugglers and traffickers take advantage of the fact that they are ignorant and give them, stories, juicy stories that, life is better outside Nigeria. And they actually sell their property to embark on these treacherous journeys. And at the end of the day, they lose everything they have. But now they know better. And these are the ones we are going to be using now as our ambassadors to go out and preach the gospel to those in the communities who may fall prey to these smugglers and traffickers alike.
Now, under your jurisdiction, to be precise, you are very responsible. NAPTIP, as NAPTIP, is very responsible to try to see that especially girls and women who are trafficked return back home and are rehabilitated. What steps have you been able to take? Because you just had some returned from Libya recently. I'm understanding that over 500 of them have returned just recently. So how many women are involved in this that were trafficked?
So far, we can't give a definite number of how many women because it's a work in progress. As we speak, 972 have arrived, including women, children, 9 pregnant women and 5 babies. We're expecting over 400 tomorrow in Port Harcourt. So what we do is right from the camp where they return in Port Harcourt, the counselors are already on ground. NAPTIP has got trained counselors and trained nurses who are already in the camp. As soon as they arrive, they are counseled. The counseling starts at the camp. And then when they're taken to the shelters, the counseling continues. Depending on the state of those that have returned, it takes between 3 to 6 weeks to counsel them. After counseling them, during the counseling period, we take care of their medicals because most of them come back with some conditions. And then we look into the medicals and treating them side by side the counseling, after which rehabilitation proper starts. And then, we engage them to find out what they really want to do. And we assist them to do what they want to do, skill acquisitions, formal education, informal education, small businesses, or what have you. When they are stabilized and their training is over, we slowly reintegrate them back into the society if and only if it is safe for them to go back to their communities. Some don't want to go back because of stigmatization. So we go to their communities to investigate, to be sure they are ready to accept them and to also counsel the family members of those victims.
I'm really hoping that you have the finances to carry that burden that much. But are you in formal discussions, for instance, with state governments? We do hear of stories in Delta State, for instance, and in Edo State, where some of the returnees that have gone back to those campsites set up by your organization, NAPTIP, making comments like they are going to be given stipends of 1,000 naira, which some of them think was very disappointing. As a matter of fact, they say that where they are being housed, the hotels that you have given to them to stay, has no light and water, and they feel that perhaps they should have stayed back. How do you respond to that?
First of all, NAPTIP has nothing to do with the hotels where these returnees were placed. In the first place, the intention of the federal government of Nigeria was to bring them back and rehabilitate them immediately. The first thing to do is to put them in shelters and not in the hotels. I don't know anything about the hotel arrangement, and I am not able to, comment on this hotel business because those who were taken away by NAPTIP have been placed in our shelters and as we speak are being rehabilitated right now.
So are you in talks with governments, say, for some of those states to try to see that the well-being of this returnees is catered for to the highest points?
Yes, we're in touch with, before this exercise, we wrote letters to all the state governors telling them that they needed to cooperate with NAPTIP because we expect these returnees come from about 29 states out of the 36 states. And so we expect that the states that do not have shelters, that do not have the capacity to rehabilitate the returnees, partner with people like NAPTIP and the Refugee Commission. We have shelters and we partner with NGOs that have shelters and support us, through finances or, food, water. But we've not seen any state at all, even come to NAPTIP shelters to find out if they have any of their indigenes, or to even give us a bag of rice. So we expect all the state governors to be responsible and responsive to this, because, I mean, this is a federal government operation, but the state governors also have to, I mean, partner with the federal government through NAPTIP and those who are able and capable of rehabilitating the returnees.
How much more Nigerians do you hope to bring back just in the immediate, looking at how well you've been able to champion this cause? You did go to Libya. What would you say? Do you have timelines? Yes,
21 days to bring back the rest that will make up the 5,000 in the first instance. And after this exercise, I mean, if there's need to continue or carry on with the repatriation exercise, then we would continue. But what Mr. President has made it clear that none will be left behind. At this point, I'd like to really appreciate Mr. President for this very brilliant initiative, and I expect all the governors to support him in this.
I want to thank you so much indeed, Julie Okadonli, the Director General of NAPTIP. Thank you so much indeed for talking to us on State of the Nation. And when State of the Nation returns, we will focus on the security situation in the country, especially in Benue State, where herdsmen attacked Logo and Guma. 73 deaths were recorded, and the burial took place in Benue just yesterday. Join us again.